period of extractive powers, colonial powers. Then during the Cold War period, it was manifested in the form of non-alignment led by India under the leadership of Pandit Nehru. Further, we adopted that post-Cold War by way of shifting towards multi alignment based on India's interest, and now the contemporary discourse related to that is basically you mentioned strategic autonomy as such is not a recent idea. So when you put that in context, then you will basically tell the examiner that I know why this question came. Then you talk about what is strategic autonomy, define what is strategic autonomy. According to Shashi Tharoor, you can define. It is independence in decision making without any external pressure or alliance obligations. In India's case, strategic autonomy is evolved through the colonial legacy of extractive powers, colonial powers. Then during the Cold War period, it was manifested in the form of non-alignment led by India under the leadership of Pandit Nehru. Further, we adopted that post-Cold War by way of shifting towards multi-alignment based on India's interest, and now the contemporary discourse related to that is basically you mentioned there India needs to maintain a balancing act. It means it is not isolationism, it is not neutrality, it is about flexibility, independence and capability. Then, so after explaining that, what do you understand? Then you can say that it is also providing a lot of opportunities for India. What is opportunities for India? You can think from this dimension. First one is political and diplomatic opportunities. What is the political and diplomatic opportunities? Multi-alignment policy. Political and diplomatic opportunities. This helps India to improve the ties with various countries, politically and diplomatically, political and diplomatic aspects. What is the example you can write here? India's ties with anything. India's ties with the BRICS, SCO, I2, U2, all these things are basically part of that. Second, this also helps in securing our defense and security interest, which is the core interest of India, core national interest, territorial integrity and sovereignty. How we are doing it? By having diversification of defense deals and purchasing what is relevant for India's, protecting India's interest, including S-400 from Russia, which helped during the Indo-Pakistan conflict by resisting secondary sanctions from USA, that is called as CATSA. India resisted CATSA. That is strategic autonomy. Defense deals, strategic autonomy, defense deals. Or India is buying fighter jets from Russia, like that. Energy will come in next part, that is trade and economy. How it is helping? We are getting cheaper oil because 85% India is importing. It is important for India to get cheaper oil to protect our people's interest. As MES Jaishankar said, it is a core aspect of India's foreign policy. Which book? Why Bharat Matters. All this I explained. In Why Bharat Matters, as Jaishankar said that the core aspect of foreign policy is also to provide what is people's interest. If I can give cheaper oil to my people, that is also a good foreign policy. That is what he said. It will also give opportunities for Indian demography through mobility agreements with various countries, including FTA with the UK. We could easily close a deal with the UK. Why you are not writing that point? Which we discussed separately. Which will help in more for India. Why you are not writing that point? Which we discussed in another topic. But why that point is not coming? There is opportunities for India. Question is what are the opportunities? Opportunities for people. It is also giving us market in countries like Africa and Latin America. There is opportunities. Trade economic aspect. Recently there was a news report, today's news report, our trade deficit reduced. Why? Because of export. Diversification is also there. Import reduction and export increased compared to year on year. That shows opportunities are there. That shows strategic autonomy is there. So when you are two way you need to think. One is what are the key aspects to think. What is our model? Not alliance but strategic partnership. Under these examples should come. So 2 example each. Enough points are there. Now talk about risk. That you external, internal and foreign policy related challenges. That is basically the risk. So 3 dimensions. Some 2 points these. 6 plus 6 plus another 3. 15, 16 points. What is the conclusion? Chief Shankar Menon, in a time of crisis, what is important? Yeah, we need to maintain our enemies close and friends closer. Strategic autonomy will help in that. Or you use a quote of S. Jaishankar. or you conclude C Rajamohan strategic autonomy to strategic influence. Now my question is why it is not coming. These points, whatever I discussed, why it's not coming in your answers? That is my question. Tell me the reason. What can be the reason for this problem? Yeah? Yeah? हाँ बोलो. At the time it is not coming. तो और कौन सा टाइम पे आएगा ये? When will it come? If it is not coming now, 60-70% is coming. Okay. See, 2-3 things are there. It is about revision, and it is about making an answer framework. When you make an answer framework, you think from various multiple dimensions. In order to bring dimensions, you need to have ideas. Next is we complete few aspects of the survey things we discussed. I think up to skill package skill. Next we'll move to subsidies to rich. Now what I'm discussing is pure fodder points. You need to revise maximum number of times. It is not one of a point, one topic unrelated to that, some discussion, no. So next is, now this is survey, old survey. Can you relate this particular topic to anything which is happening or which happened in the recent Indian economic areas? PLI scheme is benefiting, it's a subsidy to rich. What is subsidy to rich? That is subsidy to rich. What is a subsidy? अभी subsidy भी याद नहीं है. We discussed the subsidy, what is price subsidy, what is product subsidy and all. What is the basic idea of subsidy? So you don't need to say price, government interventions to provide either a product or a service or a welfare measure or any policy to the larger sections of the society. That is basically the idea. Now when you talk about the subsidies to rich, what is basically in news which is related to this topic? That is my point, that is my question. Universal basic, but we did not introduce any universal basic income. Yes, very good. One is GST reforms, very good. This is the next year your main topic. GST reforms. Anything else? Anything else? Yeah. So the basic aspect is that taxation reforms. So there is a topic which we'll discuss later because it depends on various economic aspects. So whatever is relevant for your mains will be based on a 1 year analysis of the issue. So there is no point in discussing something now. But what is in news is taxation reforms, both indirect tax and direct tax reforms. Direct tax reforms. So if some government intervention, if it is benefiting some sections, but this reforms, we'll discuss one more term, leading to some problems for the country. That is, it will have a huge benefit on the rich. For example, up to 12 lakh, there is no tax burden. It is not like somebody with a 5 lakh is benefiting compared to somebody with a 12 lakh rupees. In India, a 12 lakh rupees income per year is a big amount. It's not a small amount. Monthly, almost 1 lakh rupees in Indian standards per capita income is a huge amount. GST benefits. For example, now the slab is reduced to, how many slabs are there now? Majorly. But what is the major change happened? Most of the products in the 12-18% were reduced to 5% category. Even 28% reduced to 18%. 28% were basically, which was basically taxing the rich. Demerit goods, luxury products. Now even the luxury goods, white goods, luxury goods are also now costing less. It is good for the economy. Consumption will increase. That is very important. You need to increase the overall consumption, thereby production. If demand is increasing, the whole idea of these two reforms is what? Increase the demand. Demand increase. If demand is increasing, automatically production will increase. That is how GDP will increase. That is basically the idea of taxation reforms, both direct tax reforms and indirect tax reforms. That is not the, I don't want to bring in you to that, but I want you to know that certain topics, even if it is old, will have a utility now. So first one is the subsidies to rich. So survey says that many of the government subsidies are, so basically the idea of subsidies basically various government interventions and policies intended to benefit larger sections. That is basically the idea, simple terms. That is basically the idea of subsidies, government interventions that benefit the larger sections. Now one survey says that many of the government interventions like this disproportionately benefited the rich than the poor. For example, even fertilizer subsidy, it is benefiting whom? Rich farmers than the poor farmers. Poor farmers are finally buying from the black market. Or companies. Fertilizer subsidy is going to companies compared to the end user in Indian case. Kerosene subsidy, even kerosene subsidy is benefiting, or there is a lot of diversion. Or when you consider or when you categorize gold into a very low tax, 2 to 3% tax on gold compared to 18% on maybe some food products. It benefits whom? It benefits the rich. This problem is highlighted by the subsidies to rich point. So many of the government intervention, instead of even PM Kisan, it is benefiting many large farmers. So whether it's fertilizer, whether it is pricing of various products like or low tax on products like gold, or the recent taxation reforms, that is not, it's an old survey, but even you can consider that as something which will have a huge benefit on the rich people. So this is considered as something kind of subsidies to rich. That is basically the idea. If it is benefiting the rich disproportionately more than the poor. Next is taxation. Taxation. So taxation is important for overall nation building. This is what survey says. It is important for overall nation building. So democracy is basically a social contract. These are all what survey says. Democracy is a social contract. Contract between state and citizens. Between the state and citizens. And in this social contract there is an economic dimension. The social contract is also having an economic dimension. That is, the social contract involves whom? State and citizens. So the economic dimension of the social contract says that the role of the state is to create conditions of prosperity to all. The role of the state is to create the conditions of prosperity to all by providing essential services. So state's role is to create a prosperity, create conditions for prosperity by providing essential services, by protecting the needy through redistribution. So this is the state's role. What is the role of citizens? Citizens' role is to hold the state accountable. Citizens' role in this contract is to hold the state accountable when it fails to honor the contract. When state fails to honor the contract, citizens should hold the state accountable. But what is the problem? Survey says that citizens' role diminishes. Citizens' role diminishes if citizen does not pay. If citizen does not pay, there is economic dimension. If citizen does not pay through taxes or user fees. If citizen does not pay the taxes, direct or indirect taxes, or through user fees. So, what is very important? Citizen should pay the taxes. Thereby, citizen role increases and hold the state accountable. Now, state should provide what? Services. What sort of services? Yeah, whatever. Overall, good governance. So, if citizen is not paying the taxes, if citizen is not paying the user fee, then citizens will lose the power to hold the state accountable because citizen is not doing anything for the state in the contract. The state will also reduce its whatever delivery is required. This is a problem. This is what is highlighted. Survey says that taxation is an important economic glue. Taxation is an important economic glue that binds the citizens. Binds the citizens in a two-way relationship. Binds the citizens in a two-way relationship in a democracy. So there is an obligation on the citizens and there is an obligation on the state, and this is important for national building. So this will become a virtuous or vicious cycle. How it became a virtuous cycle? There is two actors, citizens and state. Citizens pays the taxes, state deliver the services. Provide the services. And when citizen pay the tax, citizens pays the tax. If citizen is paying the tax, then citizen will demand accountability, or in simple terms, better services. Citizen will say that I need a better road, I need better facilities. Citizen will demand better services. Then it is on the state to deliver better services. State to deliver better services. If that is not there, citizen is not paying the tax, citizen won't demand anything. Citizen will basically what? He will exit. He is not paying the tax. What will be his first incentive? Because state is not providing anything. State is not providing good health services, good education. What will be the first instance for a taxpayer or a citizen in general? He will exit. He will exit because he is looking for what? Private solutions. He will send his children to private schools. He will go to private hospitals. So in that case, what will be his priority? He will try to avoid taxes. He will try to avoid the taxes. Because he knows that even if I pay tax, I am not benefiting anything. I am not getting a free education for my kids. I am not getting a better health services. I am not even getting oxygen. Supreme Court recently asked why the ban on firecrackers only in India, other states, other people does not need a good air or what? Clean air. Court is of the view that since the matter is in Delhi and since Supreme Court is in Delhi, is always highlighted. So that should not be the situation. So this is one problem with respect to taxation or role of taxation in national building. So what are the key aspects? First one is India's tax to GDP is low. Tax to GDP is low. India's tax to GDP is low. For example, this is also leading to India's tax to GDP is now around 18%. Total, center and state. tax to GDP ratio at present is 18%, and in other countries, for example, China, it is around 20%. OECD countries, it is more than 34%. OECD countries, it is more than 34%. Even Brazil, it is around 35%. These are surveys data. Same thing is presently also saying. So India's tax to GDP is around 16 to 18%. That time it used to be around 16 point something. Now it is around 18%. So India's tax to GDP is low compared to even our own peer group, that is Brazil. Brazil is also about 30-35%. OECD countries, it is 34 or around 35%. So low tax to GDP ratio is a major problem. So this will become a vicious cycle. Low tax to GDP ratio. Low tax to GDP ratio. So this will lead to ineffective service delivery. Ineffective service delivery. Government service delivery will be ineffective. Because of this, what will happen? Ineffective service delivery will lead to what? Tax paying overall. Citizen will exit, especially middle class, the tax paying class, middle class will exit. Because of this, what will happen? State's capacity to deliver will fall. If state's capacity to deliver further falls, then what will happen? There will be further exit will again increase. Tax to GDP ratio will be lower. This is a situation of a vicious cycle for an economy. Low tax to GDP ratio. Because of the ineffective service delivery, redistribution is not effective. Government is not having enough money to focus on infrastructure, social and physical infrastructure. That is ineffective service delivery, both social and physical infrastructure. Because of ineffective service delivery, because of no good school, no good road, what paying, like middle class, especially the tax paying class, they will start exit. Where they move? So for example, they move to gated communities. Then the question will come in your paper 1. Society. People will look for what? Their own private security. They are not even taking the security, which is basically the key aspect of a state, law and order. They are not taking that also. They look for other solutions. They'll move to gated communities. They'll move to private guards. Because there is no delivery of public goods. Public goods are not delivered. Something like Indian market track we discussed. That's the situation. Because of the exit means what? Government's capacity to deliver will again fall, and this will again increase the exit. This will lead to a low tax GDP ratio. So this is further will affect. Now, so what is important is, first one is the issue of India's low tax to GDP ratio, and that is because of some challenges to India's taxation. First one is, so this is also, there is one more term here. This is leading to a situation called as, so the tax paying class will exit. They will try to avoid tax or minimize tax paying. Why? There is a lot of scope for CS in India. CS, there is a lot of scope. Why there is a lot of scope for this CS? Not current affairs, chartered accounts. So because everybody want to minimize their tax burden. Because of this issue, only government is coming up with the direct tax reforms. No need of any. Yeah, you can directly, because now there is no need of showing some ATC or this or that. You can directly, if your income is this, you pay accordingly. So that is the reason why government is bringing direct tax reforms, because now anybody without the use of CA also they can file the tax, but generally people will approach because they want to minimize the tax. So when you exit, it will lead to missing taxpayer. The problem of missing taxpayer in India. The problem of missing taxpayers. So the concept of missing taxpayer refers to individuals who are part of. So you are not part of. Individuals who are not part of the taxation system. Even though they have the ability to pay tax. So what are the challenges? First one is, see, why this is going slow is because many things you don't know. I'm not blaming, but I'm saying that there is a reason. I used to complete this full like 10-year economic survey in maximum 2 to 3 class. And sometimes what will happen is that if you are not responding, then I think that you don't know, then I keep on explaining it. When I prompt also, nobody responds. Some people are not even writing down, they know everything. Then I'm missing taxpayer, yeah, I know. I miss the taxpayer. I really miss him. That's a big problem. Because these are the things basically you should know. Okay, what is the vicious cycle of low tax to GDP ratio? What is the low equilibrium trap? What is basically happening? How you can improve the tax buoyancy? How you can improve the tax base? Then I can go fast. Otherwise, I'll explain, and some people will again sit like this. So then I go, okay, you don't understand. Again, I'll explain. That is why it is going slow. I also don't want to continue one survey for 2 more classes. Actually, I wanted to finish it off, because what is the advantage of this is that you get any question you're eyeing for 5 points already. Any question, and that too from the government side, so that you can use it. Even if there's a very complete indirect question, if you know this 10-year survey, you will have 5 points already. Because survey will basically analyze India's political economy. And if you know the 10 years of political economy, you don't need anything with respect to analyzing what is the problem in India, or what is the good and bad opportunity and risk. A short analysis you can make. If you know subsidies, you can even talk about the present direct tax and indirect tax reforms. It's challenge. We are not good or bad is not the thing. In academic aspect, you need to know the positive as well as the challenges. Here, purely about this academic debate. It's not about the practically what will happen. That is your interview case. We'll discuss later. So, though the government's idea is to taxation reforms, which can come as any day question, because that is part of your syllabus. Please keep the mobile. Yeah, there's no point, I think. So, improving first one is what are the challenges? I will just tell nobody is listening. Improving the taxation. So, improving the property tax. Improving the property taxation. One major challenge in taxation is improving the property taxation. So property tax in India, our taxation, property tax. What is the advantage of property tax? What is the advantage of property tax? Yeah? it is progressive taxation. It is progressive taxation. So taxation needs to be, what should be the model of taxation? It should be progressive taxation. As if you are having more wealth, you should pay more. So property taxation is progressive taxation, but what is the problem? It is not properly valued in India. There will always, we can see that government any day, like every 1 or 2 months, you can see that the circle rate change. Means sometimes maybe like after 5 years, some circle rate will change, but it will take years, maybe like 2 years, 3 years, you will take the circle rate. What is circle rate? The rate fixed by the minimum rate fixed by the government. That is circle rate. But the property sale will be, what is that called? Market price. Means there will always be a huge divergence between the market rate and circle rate. Circle rate will be here, market rate will be here. Means government is losing this much revenue. Means if the circle rate in Karol Bagh is, say for example, just for, I don't know exactly, 1 lakh per square feet. I don't exactly, but I just tell you. Okay. No, don't think that okay, this is 1 lakh square feet. I don't know. So 1 lakh is basically very high. In Delhi, the circle rate, Karol Bagh circle rate is very high. So if 1 lakh square feet is circle rate, then market rate will be maybe 5 lakh square feet. Government is getting tax on how much? 1 lakh. You can register above that, no doubt. This is the minimum you should register. So everybody will go for what? Minimizing the tax burden, because you want to minimize it, because you want to exit it. He's not getting benefits, so you'll save that money and you think that let me put my child in a private school. If government social security expenditure, if it is coming down, same problem will happen. Middle class will exit. Last year's question. So this is a challenge. So that is the first one, improving or property tax issue. Second one is pressure to redistribute. Another challenge is pressure to redistribute. Pressure to roll of work. That is, see, I'm not taking you to many other areas. I'm just, see, the topic discussion will be limited to what is given in survey. You can link it, you can bring it. Okay, what is the problem with respect to bank loans? Bank loans, bank will go give loan on this market rate also. Bank will, okay, what is the market rate? This is it. Okay, we are ready to give the loan on that. And maximum black money is here, because you register for the circle rate. You paid the market rate. This will be what? Black. So this is another economic implication. So I'm not taking you to all those aspects. I'm just taking you what is the challenge with respect to taxation. First one is property tax registration, property tax issue. Second one is pressure to redistribute. Another challenge. Pressure to redistribute. So what is the problem? Historically, there are two major models. One is state first provide the essential services and then redistribute. So Western liberal models is basically what? State provides the essential services, then state will focus on redistribution. Means if state is not providing essential services, then state may not get enough fund to redistribute. Why? Middle class will, taxpaying class will exit. So first, you can see that you can go to, I think even US or Western countries, education is free. Education is free. In US also, I think education is free. Nordic countries, we discussed that term, social democracy. We discussed this term, right? Social democracy. What is social democracy? What is social democracy? We discussed in last class. Okay. Next is, so that is a problem. So the pressurized pressure to redistribute. If that is not happening, if government is not providing essential services, then it will lead to exit or alienation of. This is also the term, alienation of middle class. Alienation of middle class, exiting or alienation of middle class. So low services, middle class will exit or alienation of middle class. Third thing is, so the fourth is what? The problem of missing taxpayers. Fourth challenge, the problem of missing taxpayers. So these are the some challenges mentioned in survey. Problem of missing taxpayers. Anyway, if there is a missing taxpayer also, there will be overall tax to GDP will come down. Ability to pay tax, but they are not paying the tax. That's also because another problem for this is what? Government is raising the threshold. The average income of a country is, for example, 5 lakh. The income tax threshold is 6 lakh. Then very few people will come in that particular bracket. If the average income is 5 lakh and the income tax threshold is 4 lakh, then many people will come in the bracket. So that is a problem in missing taxpayers. So that is also a policy issue. These are the challenges. Now survey gives some suggestions. First one, four strategies to improve India's fiscal capacity. Mentioned in survey. First one is prioritize essential services. Prioritize essential services. Strategies to improve the fiscal capacity and thereby build the state's legitimacy. Strategies to improve fiscal capacity and thereby build the state's legitimacy. Build the state's legitimacy, accountability, legitimacy, everything. So first one is prioritize essential services. That is spending on. Government should spend on essential services, public infrastructure or social infrastructure, law and order, these kind of things. Next is reduce corruption. Reduce corruption. Public resources need to be used efficiently, not wasted. No rent seeking. Without any productive work, only rent seeking. Corruption is that only. So that is the second issue, reduce corruption, rent seeking. Third one is reduce subsidies to rich. Reduce subsidies to rich means review such policies. Reduce subsidies to rich. And third one, so fourth one, develop property taxation. Develop property taxation. Okay, so these are the things. Now I got a question, then we'll move. Which one? We'll discuss that. We'll come to that again. Right, question. State capacity and taxation. State capacity and taxation. State capacity and taxation are key determinants. State capacity and taxation are key determinants of long-term development. How can India enhance? How can India enhance its tax to GDP ratio and government spending? How can India increase its tax to GDP ratio and government spending to strengthen state capacity? I mean, I'll discuss that. That is good. बस time है. Good. 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 एकदम structuring है सर. Can I finance on that? Collected by? No, this is introduction you need to work on. No, that is fine. Mm-hmm. Currently? हाँ ठीक है. बस. हाँ. Sorry. So, state capacity and taxation are key determinants in long-term development. Long-term development. How can India enhance its tax to GDP ratio and government spending? Okay. So, what is the answer framework? Tell fast. Yeah, you can start with the context also, recent reforms also you can mention. Because this question is not, when you're writing, it's not related to the economic survey. Okay. So that is one way you can start. Or you can just start with what? What economic survey? Yeah, data point also you can start. Or you can start with what? This idea. What economic survey says? Democracy, social contract between state and citizen. Draw the diagram. Second. So that is that also. Anyway, any method you can start it. Data you need to remember. 16 to 18%. 18%. Now, it is important for long-term development. So how you write? Tax revenue, better physical and social infrastructure. That's key to long-term development. You can add more points. That is also one way to do it. Okay. Now, so you just explained this aspect with both social contract and a flow diagram. Next is how to enhance tax to GDP ratio. Here you can bring the second data. What is that? India's case, it is around 16%. However, yeah, in our own peer group, Brazil, it is around 35%, or OECD, it is around more than 34%. Hence, India needs to focus on improving the overall tax to GDP ratio. How it can enhance? One, whatever we discussed that you can mention. What is that? Improving property taxation, reduce corruption, reduce subsidies to rich. Then, yeah, provide essential services. All those points for 5 points you can discuss. Anything else? Only one answer I saw that in her answer. Golden rule of fiscal policy. That also we discussed. What is golden rule? Fiscal consolidation. That is something we discussed initially about this discussion. We discussed about what? The golden rule of fiscal policy. Fiscal consolidation. Spend on productive things. Reduce the government borrowing. Even if borrowing, it should be spent on productive areas. That is another thing. Anything else you can mention? Yeah, you can mention some challenges. And what is another one more diagram? That is widen the tax base. Widen the tax base. That is one thing. Then better tax administration. Whatever you wrote, I'm just giving you some diagrams. Increase tax revenue. Increase tax revenue. Same idea what is given in the question. Government spending will increase. This is also the solution. Government spending increase. Physical infra. Social infra. Long-term development. Long-term development. So widen the tax base. Better tax administration. More tax revenue. Government spending will increase. Or here you can use another term, depends on the question. Government's fiscal capacity will increase, or state capacity will increase. Whatever be the question. State capacity will increase, state fiscal capacity will increase. Or you can just use any of the term based on the question. Physical infrastructure, more investment in roads, bridges, railways, social infrastructure, schools, hospitals, skill development. Everything will contribute what? Long-term development. I think I gave a data on long-term development also. Multiplier effect. 2.4 IMF data also I gave. Mention that. That is also one other point you can use that. Why this should be the focus area. Okay. Yes. Then you conclude with the. You wrote this thing, then you give some challenges, then you conclusion. What is the conclusion? Some additional points. What are the additional points? You'll get more ideas, but gradually. Now what you will like? Yeah, you can use Viksit Bharat ideas, or what are other areas? Other than policies, what is other areas? These are mainly your policy areas. What else is required? Good governance, reduce bureaucratic inertia. That you already wrote. Then you can also talk about focus on sectors, sector focus like manufacturing. You'll get many points, gradually you'll get. But you need to write some challenges and some way forward. That's it. Or you can use some schemes, example. Okay, next. Another thing is industrial policy. So industrial policy, what it is saying is basically about the problem of regulatory cholesterol. So this term you might have heard sometimes. That is one of the this is also a challenge. The same question you can use this particular problem. Subsidy storage or industrial policy, what is the problem? The problem of regulatory cholesterol, labor laws, regulatory cholesterol, labor laws. Regulatory cholesterol means, what is regulatory cholesterol idea? Complex regulations inhibiting economic growth. Complex regulations inhibiting economic growth. Excessive regulations. Another aspect of the industrial policy is related to the spatial mismatch between workers and jobs. Spatial mismatch between workers and jobs. What is the problem? Yeah, spatial mismatch. The space where factories are located and workers are staying, if there is a mismatch. If the location of the industries and workers, if there is a mismatch. Location of workers and mismatch means available economic opportunities for the workers. Available economic opportunities for the workers. If it is not located in the same geographical area. If it is not located in the same geographical area. So what are the effect of this? It will act as an obstacle to formal sector formalization, formal sector growth. Means industries are located in CP, you are staying in some place, Patel Nagar, Shadipur, Kirti Nagar. So that is that mismatch, whatever. You cannot stay in CP because it is very expensive. So you move to outer areas. So this spatial mismatch will lead to what? Yeah, you don't have any place to stay. You are already outside. The problem is not migration. The problem is you are not able to come to this area. You are staying in outer area. So what is the solution? You take the factory to tier 2 cities or tier 3 cities. Rather than taking the workers to here, you move the factory to tier 2 or Shadi. ठीक है. Nothing you will remember, only you remember Shadipur में कुछ था. Industrial policy में CP and Shadipur में कुछ है. So what are the problems? Because of high urban living cost, because of poor connectivity, there will be a spatial mismatch. High living cost and poor connectivity, poor transportation infrastructure connectivity. So what is the consequence of this? Limited job creation, formal sector job creation. Another impact is it will also impact on female labor force participation because lack of availability of suitable jobs in their geographical area. Impact on female labor force participation. So proximity of employment is preferred mainly by women. Women prefers proximity to employment. So what is the way forward is relocation of industries. Relocation in the Sasi said to Shadipur. Second and third tier towns. And it's a mutual benefit. It should be a mutual benefit relocation. It has to be a mutual benefit relocation. There should be commercial advantages for both the employer as well as employee. SEZ is a different model. You can, these are basically to address these kind of challenges. But SEZ is also in Indian case. What is the problem? Why SEZ is not successful is that they will be set up here. So it is difficult for the worker to move. This we need to find a solution to complete this because it is very difficult if you are going very slow. That is skill development area. So industry policy we are not discussing complete policy. We are basically discussing one aspect of industry policy. Yes.